Hey, it's Mike Camber at FlipNerd.com. Welcome back for another exciting VIP interview where I interview some of the most successful real estate investing experts and entrepreneurs in our industry to help you learn and grow. Today, I'm joined by Jacci Konkle, who's a Wisconsin-based investor. She's a coach. She's the founder of the Appleton RIA Club. And today, we're going to talk about how to find leads through networking. As a real estate investor, it's important to find leads through lots of other sources. And a lot of people tend to automate things with direct mail and a lot of things, but there's a lot of ways to find deals the old-fashioned way, which is actually networking and actually talking to people, getting out from behind your computer and actually talking to people. It's a interesting concept, right? But before we get started with Jacci, though, let's take a moment to recognize our featured sponsors. RealtyMogul.com is an online marketplace for real estate investing, connecting borrowers and capital from accredited and institutional investors. Get a rehab loan fast and close in as little as 10 days. Rates start as low as 9%. We'd also like to thank National Real Estate Insurance Group, the nation's leading provider of insurance to the residential real estate investor market. From individual properties to large-scale investors, National Real Estate Insurance Group is ready to serve you. Please note, the views and opinions expressed by the individuals in this program do not necessarily reflect those of FlipNerd.com or any of its partners, advertisers, or affiliates. Please consult professionals before making any investment or tax decisions, as real estate investing can be risky. Hey, Jacci, welcome to the show.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So excited to talk to you today. I know you've got some interesting experiences to share in terms of the importance of networking and finding alternative lead sources, which is hard to believe that actually talking to people is considered an alternative lead source. But before we get started with that, why don't you tell us your background?
Let's see. I've been involved in real estate since 1996 when I bought my Carlton Sheets program and bought my first rental property. But after dealing with tenants for a while, I realized that the dream of building a rental portfolio wasn't actually a dream, but a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's something I didn't really do. And then, fast forward a few years, in 2004 or 5, I got my real estate license in Illinois and became a realtor, partnered with an auctioneer, and started selling properties in 30 days through an auction process. Most of our clients were actually rehabbers and flippers. And I was watching these guys actually get their butts handed to them. And I was super afraid for what they were doing. And I thought to myself, I would never flip these. But as I really went through it, I was kind of learning all the things that they did wrong, like buying the house that backs up to the railroad tracks on a busy street. Why would you buy that house to flip it?
Yeah.
But I was watching all the things that they were doing wrong, over rehabbing, things like that. And I was kind of noticing the things that they could have done differently. And in 2007, my husband and I were living back in Wisconsin. And we decided to start flipping. And we just thought if we did all the things that they didn't do, and we didn't do all the things that they did wrong, that we might have a successful business. And it actually turned out pretty well. We've been flipping homes since then, and we have had a successful business. It is something we do full time, again, along with the coaching and the RIA and things like that. But that's our substantial piece of our business, is flipping and wholesaling. So
Okay, that's great. And then tell us a little about your RIA Club. I mean, for those that listen, they've heard me say this a million times, but I'm a huge proponent of RIA Clubs, and just know that they're kind of the backbone of the real estate investing community. And when folks start to see the new FlipNerd site roll out, they'll understand how important that we think they are, because we've integrated them into our new website that's about to roll out soon. But it's such thanks for all you do, because I know it can also be a thankless business, and but it's an important part. It's definitely an important part of the real estate investor community. But tell us a little bit about your RIA.
Well, I started the RIA because I really love pouring into other people. I like to help other people be successful. I come from that background of doing corporate training and things like that. And that's also why I have a coaching business, to take people to the next step and the next level. But I started the RIA not as any type of a profit center, but just to help people get that information, because I'm always discouraged when the big gurus come to town and people lay down $20,000, $50,000, $100,000, and they get help from somebody who doesn't even do it, and they're states away.
Yeah.
And that was really angering me. So I started a RIA Club so that we can get good information into people's hands, help them get started properly, and take them kind of through the process. And networking's so important. It gets us all into one room. If your family's telling you you're crazy getting involved in real estate because look at the market and all this kind of stuff,
right,
you get to be around some like-minded people who are having success and help you along your business.
Yeah, that's critical. Yeah, I think all me included, our family thought we were nuts when we started. Like, why would you do that? The market's tanking, and why would they pay you to buy houses from you? And you've kind of heard it all. But anyway, now they ask, how can we do that too?
Get involved, exactly.
Yeah.
One of the things that we did with RIA is we connected with some of the bigger RIAs. I mean, first thing we did was become a chapter of the national RIA to kind of bring in some of those resources. But we also partner with the Milwaukee RIA and the Madison RIA and a couple of the RIAs in Illinois. And we get together as kind of a group, and our RIAs are all in the same week, but they're Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So we can bring in some of the big speakers and take advantage of them being in town without them having to make a special trip to come to our smaller group. They'll visit us because they're also visiting the larger groups at the same time. And that gives us a really nice opportunity to get everybody some really nice information.
Yeah, that's an awesome idea. That was a great idea. That's great.
Yeah.
It's great. And I always love hearing, it's kind of a side note, when RIA clubs work together, because I've seen some that don't, and you just tend to think that everybody's their competition, even though they're 200 miles away. And it's like, it's not your competition.
No, it doesn't make any sense. We all, if everybody helps everybody, we'll have more educated investors in the marketplace, and we won't have these people that are overbidding on properties and taking them away from people who could have gotten them for the right price. Because, those guys that just come out, they saw a show on TV, Flip This House or whatever, and they thought, oh, I can do that. They go overpay for a property, and they lose money and they never come back and buy another one. But that just took a good property away from an investor who knew what to do with it.
Yeah, and somebody got hurt in the
it's better to have
process
everybody
by losing money. Yeah.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, so today we're going to talk about lead generation, and all veteran real estate investors understand the importance of having multiple lead sources, because it's critical, because sources dry up and come and go, and you want to run a stable of a business as you can. And networking is actually something that's dear to my heart. I talk about it to a lot of the folks that I mentor and coach about the importance of networking and building relationships. In fact, I took a large training group yesterday that's part of the system that I'm in, to a house that I bought from, and it just happened to be from a real estate agent. It was an off-market deal, but it was a hoarder house and needs a ton of work, and just one that he didn't want to fool with. And that wouldn't happen unless I spent some time building relationships like that. So, and I know that that's important to you. So tell us a little bit about networking, because it's critical to network with people to find deals over time. It's really important to have a lot of different sources for leads, but tell us a little bit about your experience and what you teach others in terms of the power of networking.
Well, one of the things I do, and this is all over the world, and you might have heard of it yourself, Mike, BNI, Business Networking International.
Sure.
Have you seen this? You can go to bni.com, and they're all over the world. What you do is just, scope it down to your state and your city. And I used to join the clubs, but it's a huge commitment because you have to go every single week to their meetings. But they'll let you visit 1 or 2, maybe 3 times as a guest before asking you to join. And really all you need to do is just pop in as a guest. They give you an opportunity to tell about yourself and what's a good lead for you, what's a good referral for you. And what BNI is in a nutshell is it's a referral group. And they allow one person from each type of business into the group, and they spend time exchanging referrals. So at the beginning of the meeting, they have all of the members go around the table and say, and what's a good referral for them. And then at the end, they let the guests talk about, who they are. It's like 30 seconds to 60 seconds, depending on the group you visit. And the thing is, when they're going around the table, they're also passing around a box full of their business cards. So whoever is speaking that you think might be a good referral source back and forth for you, and that you might even be able to help their business, like the estate planning attorney, the probate attorney, a realtor, a mortgage broker, all these different people, grab their cards out of there. Maybe there's somebody who is a director at a nursing home or an assisted living facility, those types of things. Those are great people to be connected with.
Yep.
So grab their cards out. And then, of course, when you're talking about yourself, make sure you talk about your bird dog fee. And if you don't offer a bird dog fee, you need to start. I offer $1,000 to anybody who gives me a lead that I end up being able to purchase the home. And I like to take a picture of them with my big check. I had one of the big Ed McMahon checks made up that has my company name, and it's $1,000 referral fee. And I like to take my picture or the check and use it as social proof and post it on Facebook, my website, whatever, so other people can see that we really do pay the $1,000.
Yep.
So when I'm talking about myself and I let them know it's a good referral for me, a great referral for me is someone who just inherited a home that, smells like Ben Gay and looks like 1950 inside. I mean, that's a great referral for me. If you don't want to empty it out, I'll clean it out. Just call me before you clean or repair anything. Take out the valuables and anything that means anything to you. I'll take care of the rest. Don't take your weekends and clean the house out. When you know somebody like that, you need to think of me right away. And if I buy that house, you get $1,000.
Yep.
And I always let them know, hey, I know this is a referral group. This is the reason you're here today, but I'm going to pay you for the referrals as well.
Yeah.
I don't expect you to pay me your referrals, but this is what I do, so I'm extending it here. Because sometimes people are like, oh my gosh, you pay too?
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
So,
yeah, I tell people to maybe check your market too, because different states have different rules in terms of how much you can pay in referral fees, which I think is insane. But
yeah,
check your local rules and on that, and sometimes there's unique ways to get around it. I'm not going to coach people on how to break the law or break the rules, but just find out what they are in your market. So.
Yeah, and sometimes you can just donate to their favorite charity in their name.
Yeah.
And then you didn't pay them anything or whatever. Because there's other people, attorneys and things like that it's a conflict of interest for them to take, money for a referral. But there's things you can do.
Yeah.
So, and then the cards that you take out of the box, because maybe they don't think of you right away, but you can call them and say, hey, I met you at the BNI last week. I just thought it'd be a good idea for us to sit down because I think you and I could probably pass some leads back and forth.
Yeah.
They're happy to do that. That's why they're part of that group, and they're used to doing that. And so that, buy them coffee or meet for lunch or whatever it is, make an appointment at their office and just sit down and talk about a little bit more what's a good referral for you, and then what they might be looking for that you can help them with.
Sure. Yeah.
For example, I have an estate, what do we call that? They do auctions at estates, estate sales, things like that.
Uh-huh. I
have something like that in Rolodex, which is a great referral source for me. So when I go and I get a lead and I'm buying a house and it might be some heirs that, took possession of a property and the house is still full of all the antiques and everything else, I'll ask them, what are you doing with the stuff? Do you need help selling it? Do you need help getting it taken care of? Do you want to do an estate sale? And if they say, yeah, and we don't know who to call, well, I'm going to refer them to her. And when she goes and she gets a call, and they say, well, do you buy the house too? And she says, no, I buy the stuff. If you want to sell the house, I've got someone, and she'll refer them to me. And it's just a really great relationship.
Yep, absolutely.
So that's another person you should try to connect with.
Yeah.
Is the companies that do estate sales in your area. A lot of times they're called way before anybody to buy the house, because they can't imagine selling the house until all grandma's stuff is out.
Right.
So you can get a jump on that lead by being in touch with that person.
Yeah, in my experience, estate sale companies tend to be a lot of them, a lot of mom and pop shops, and they're small, and so there's, they're more open to unique solutions to things than, bigger companies would be, and so that's one thing, is that they're a little more open-minded. Two is there's a ton of them, so get busy and start finding those people.
Yeah. Offer them a referral fee. Yep. Again, if you can, and you can call it an advertising fee, whatever it turns out to be, but they're advertising for me. So if if they give me a lead and I pay them for it, I mean, in most states that's going to be okay. But I appreciate your point. We definitely do have to check with the different rules and regulations, seeing that you're a national show.
Sure, sure. And talk about what other sources do you have in terms of prospects you go after to network with that could, bring a lead your way?
Yeah, and some of the other BNI is the biggest referral networking group that's out there, but you might be able to find smaller referral groups if you just do a Google search for your area. There's been a lot of spin-offs in a lot of different areas because BNI is a little bit expensive. So there have been little groups that spin off and call themselves whatever. But if you just look for referral groups, you can also do Chamber of Commerce events, and networking events that they have. And then as far as like targeted people that you would want to network with, of course, you want to deal with estate planning attorneys, and probate attorneys, because they're going to get those inherited homes. They're going to have those leads. Now, they're not going to be able to call you and say, here's the person and the address, but they'll be able to refer your name and your number to their clients. Sure. But because of that attorney-client privilege, they can't call you and say, hey, I have a lead, but they can give your information to them.
Yeah.
Any of the directors that are working with assisted living, facilities and nursing homes and things like that, a lot of times when they're coming in, they have a property that they need to sell to be able to move into these, especially if they're going to be moving into government funding, like, Medicaid, that kind of stuff. They need to sell all their assets down to a specific limit. So They need to get rid of their properties. A lot of times there's deferred maintenance and things that the property needs, and they can't just put it on the market and sell it very quickly.
Yeah. It's funny. It's interesting that we're talking about this. One of the, I don't know all your techniques and all your voodoo magic. I don't know what it all is, but I actually talked recently. I was talking to some people on this very same topic. And my analogy is that I usually ask people, hey, raise your hand if you think you're good at networking and you go to events and meet a lot of people. And I said, okay, keep your hand up. How many of you come home with a stack of business cards in your pocket? And keep your hand up. It's like, how many of you wrap a rubber band around it and like throw it in a drawer somewhere? Like most of the hands stay up. And it just, generally speaking, it's a shame. And in all honesty, I don't necessarily take the own advice that I'm giving here. So this is more of do as I say, not as I do. But just that a lot of people spend time networking, but they never go beyond that event. Rarely. To the point to where I'll say something right now. A lot of people can probably understand what I'm saying. Is that it's been rare for you if you met somebody at an event and you hear from them afterwards, like where they send you an email and say, "Hey, it was really great to meet you. Yes. Can we grab coffee sometime?" Or I'd like to learn more about what it is we talked about. And it's rare, and why not be that person that is the rare instance? Send an email afterwards, even if you have somewhat canned emails. Just, it was great to meet you yesterday. By the way, if you ever come across any of those houses like we talked about, the stuff that I buy, the gross ones, let me know. And then find a way to just, follow up with them once a quarter or something, because the challenge with all these people that you're talking about is it's never going to happen where you meet somebody and they're like, actually, I have a house for you right now. Maybe you could buy it today. Like, that never happens. It's going to be, no, we don't have anything right now. I have seen those before. But what happens is 2 years later, they're going to come across something. The challenge is, are you still top of mind? Do they still remember you?
Exactly. And especially with like the attorneys and the people who are getting leads on a regular basis. But once you do one deal with them, they don't forget you. Because they're like, holy cow, you closed so fast. Like, remember that an attorney doesn't get paid on a probate case until everything's settled. Yeah. And that house is usually the last thing sitting there in the estate. If you can get that house out of there, they can settle the estate, they can get paid. Yep. They love it. Yep. I'll buy it as soon as that personal rep is appointed and official and can sign the offer. We sign it and close in a week. Done. Yep. And that attorney is always wowed. Now they're going to remember you. You still have to stay on top of mind, but leading up to that, you have to get that first deal with them. And also remember, if a different way of networking brings you to an estate that's in probate or something like that, where they're dealing with an attorney, ask them who their attorney is. Reach out to that attorney and say, did you know I came in and bought this house? I can buy the next one. Call me. Yeah. Make sure that you're staying on top of them. But that is a really good point. Another way that I'll stay on top of people if I'm meeting them in person is just asking them if they wouldn't mind putting my sign in their yard. So bandit signs that we're putting all over town and they're getting taken by the sign police, or some other investor maybe might be stealing them. I think I might have that in my area. I'm asking people, hey, would you mind putting my sign in your front yard? And if someone calls me off of your sign and I buy the house, I'll pay you for it.
Just some kind of basic techniques for making sure you, after you meet people, you continue to build that relationship over time.
Yeah, one of the things I do is become friends with them on Facebook or whatever social media you use. I have all the social medias, but I like Facebook. And I think most people use that. So that way they can see some of my updates, whether they're personal or business, and it just kind of keeps me top of mind that way. Sending them an email every once in a while and really going back and visiting the same groups where I met someone in the first place, if it was part of a group, and being able to reconnect with them in person or even just calling them up and having coffee, because that's something that's really simple to do. And you can do that with 1 or 2 people each day pretty easily.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't take a lot of time.
That's great. And one of the things that I tell a lot of the folks that I mentor is our model typically is we spend money on advertising to generate leads, direct mail. We do a whole bunch of things in my system. But that what separates the successful real estate investors from the ones that just get by are the ones that find lead sources outside of their traditional advertising that can bring leads to them over time. Because imagine if you make 10 or 20,000 on a house, and you could find a way to get an extra 6 or 12 of those a year. I mean, it makes a huge difference to most people.
Yeah, no, it really does. And that's the thing that most people aren't doing. Most people are just doing, okay, you mentioned mailings. I've never done a mailing. I keep saying I'm going to do one. I even bought a list. I have never ever done a mailing. Wow. And I think I've got 2 foreclosures ever. So it's really, for me, always been about just connecting with people and finding out what's going on. And you would be surprised. They say when you're talking about driving neighborhoods, and, the gurus talk about the same thing, and you see a house that's not kept, the lawn is long, or, the house just looks ugly, maybe mailing or dropping off a postcard or something at the house. But for me, you can just go talk to the neighbors. They know everything about that house. They know who owns it, where they live if they don't live there, if it's rented now, if it's vacant. They know the whole story about that property, and you can get all the information you need from those neighbors so that you know what to do next to approach that owner and possibly buy that house.
Yeah, that's great.
But, these are the things that most investors aren't doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's so easy to hide behind a computer these days, or and I'm to blame for using virtual assistants and things that you just kind of assume are automated to free up time in my life. But it's those extra steps, the extra mile that really makes a difference for a lot of people's business, for sure. Yeah,
or even if you see an estate sale going on, stop by and say, is the house for sale? When you're done selling all this stuff in here, is the house for sale?
Yeah.
I mean, you just walked up. I actually bought a house like that. They were doing the estate sale, and here's the thing. That house was for sale, her mom had passed away over a year ago. She left the house exactly as it was because she was not ready to let mom go. She was finally ready in having the estate sale. So when I went there, she's like, when mom passed away, I got all these letters from all these people who buy houses like you. She said, I threw them all away. I was so angry that they would send me these letters, and my mom just died. And she's like, but I'm ready now. And I was like, how perfect is that? Yeah. Nobody's mailing after a year. And I was able to walk in and buy the house. And then as I'm explaining my offer and kind of why my number is where it is, and I explained to her how I use private money and it's more expensive than to go to the bank today for a mortgage, she was like, really? You pay that kind of interest? She became a private lender for us.
Wow. Because
she has all this sitting in her IRA not doing well. And she said, well, I'd love to become a private lender for you. She said, but not this deal. This is mama's house. She said, but the next one, I'd like to fund it.
Yeah.
And she had $67,000. Now, it's not $1 million, but it's $67,000. I could do something with that.
Yeah.
So it was really cool how that one worked out. And it was all because I stopped at an estate sale. And I'm telling you, when somebody's doing the estate sale, they're ready. They're not always ready right away, and some people do get offended by the letters, but we know we need to put those lines in the water. But I was there a year after mom had passed.
Yeah.
She was ready, and I was the only because nobody else was going after that house anymore.
Everybody else had given up. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, a lot of the networking things you talked about just now kind of also apply to private money, where you're meeting people and saying we look for private lenders. And so, talk a little bit about how you use some of those same networking tools that you talked about for private money.
Well, at the end of my little ditty where I'm saying what's a good referral for me as far as a property, I always just put the oh, and also at the end of it. Oh, by the way, if you know of anybody who's not making at least 8% on their money, if they've got money stuck in a savings or a CD or a money market or a 401k where at a job where they no longer work and they're not happy with their return, those are good referrals for me because we will pay them more money and they will be secured by a mortgage on the property.
Yeah.
And people don't always give me other people's names, but they'll go, well, yeah, me.
Yeah. And raising private money and some of those things. It's such an important part of any veteran real estate investor's business. They understand the importance of that. So I hope a lot of folks will take your advice and start to implement some of those things.
Absolutely. I really think it is one of the most important things. And, you can also get out and talk to those realtors. You don't have to wait for something to show up on the MLS. They might get a call for a listing for a house that they're just not even wanting to list because they know it needs a lot of repairs. So just getting out there and talking to the